All right. Hey guys, I'm Lyle from That Viral Moment, where we are working with content creators to learn and empower the next generation of creators. And today I have Robert from Five Mad Movie Makers. How are you doing, Robert?
Hi, Lyle. I'm doing well, thanks.
Someone who doesn't know your niche, how would you describe it to them?
Well, I think every video I've made on the channel features toys pretty prominently in some way, and there's a whole bunch of different products that I work with of Lego, Hot Wheels, K'NEX, Lionel, model trains, Thomas the Tank Engine, wooden toys. But as far as the videos go, I kind of have a couple main genres on my channel. I have stunts videos of toy cars and trains doing flips and tricks, and then I have like you said, a couple animation videos where you take one picture at a time and then you move the picture for the stop motion effect. Uh, but honestly, I do have a hard time summing up
Yeah.
everything. I just say toy roller coasters is really what I say, and that kind of hits on it. But people don't really get an idea of what it is till you start showing it to them and say, "Oh, here's what I make," and they say, "Oh, I've seen stuff like this," or they'll recognize like the point of view. Um, Hot Wheels tracks where with the camera on the car, which I felt like I was able to kind of innovate in that area a couple years ago.
Yeah, 100%. They say the shorter your elevator pitch, the better. So I think that that's a great way of describing it. You started college, and did you immediately know what you wanted to major in? And was that something that you kind of grew on you over time? Like earlier, in your childhood, did you think I'm going to have more of a traditional job, or were there certain pathways you were thinking about, or did you always know, like, hey, I'm creative and my mind thinks in an interesting way?
I think I had a pretty good idea that I liked doing creative stuff. I liked drawing a lot. For a while, I really wanted to be a cartoonist.
Hmm.
Like I was really inspired by Charles Schultz's Peanuts and
Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson. And I would draw comics and pass them around the class. Probably got in trouble for that
Yeah.
once or twice. Um, but then there were a lot of other careers that I thought about doing. Like I thought, oh, it'd be cool to be an actor in movies, or it would be really cool to um, be a film director. And I think that's what going into college I thought I was going to go into, was to be a feature film Hollywood director. And I mean, that's still a possibility. All of these are still possibilities, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
I don't think I considered starting college that YouTube was going to be my main career after graduating. But that was when what I throughout college had realized, oh, I could start making money at this, and this is something that is pretty much what I have studied, even though it's in a new format and it's shorter. It's might not maybe not as epic in scale, but it's attainable. It's within reach with the tools that are at my disposal. So that's why I hopped into it.
Yeah. So 2010, that's when you started, right? Just about a decade ago.
Yeah, that's when I started the channel. I think it was the summer after my sophomore year of high school. And I think the first videos were some K'NEX roller coasters, which I've since learned that not a lot of people know what K'NEX roller coasters are.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny the terminology, right? Like going back to how would you describe what you do? It's more of just like, hey, here's a video, check it out.
Yeah. And I've realized that that's what people do anyways when they're showing stuff to their friends. They're not like, hey, I'm going to describe to you in detail what this is before I
Right.
show it to you. They're usually like, well, I liked this and I'm going to pass it on to you and see what you think of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so you start this channel, you're in high school, and did you work with anyone on it? And was there an initial, like I understand it was just like, let me post these and see what happens. Like, you know, did your first video take off, or was it later in your YouTube journey that you got your first kind of whiff of success?
The first video I posted on Five Mad Movie Makers definitely did not take off. I think it was just filmed in my bedroom, and
Hmm.
the lighting's not great. The editing is okay, I think.
I'm sure.
But
Yeah, I much better than I could do.
oh dear. Well, the track is not very long. But it did have like a point of view where my brother had gotten a pen camera for Christmas, and so
Hmm.
I asked Mark if I could borrow this little pen camera that was the lowest resolution
Hmm.
you could possibly get, but it was small enough that you could fit it on the car, and so even back then I was trying to think of how to incorporate that, but that video didn't take off. It's like Connects Cruiser Coaster, which is not a great title, but you know, when you're starting out.
Right. And I mean, you had no, like, did you have any expectations? Because, I'm just thinking back to 2010, right? Like, I think the idea of content creation as a form of financial lucrativity was not really something that people thought about back then. It was more of just like, hey, this is a place where I can upload and share things, and let me check it out. So I guess I'm curious, like, how long down the road was it when you all of a sudden saw some level of growth?
I think it was later that summer I filmed a video called Lego Sandbox Roller Coaster, and I had actually filmed it in June and I didn't post it till September, um, because I created it before the YouTube channel
Yep.
had been formed. And then I went back looking at some footage and thought, oh, I haven't put this yet. And so I even cut the video down shorter than what it had been. Originally, it was a minute and a half, and I got it down to 40 seconds. And so that was a really nice, brisk pace. And that was the first time on Five Mad Movie Makers that I posted a video that really started to gain traction. And I think people really connected to the outdoor roller coaster and the very sandy environment, the little tunnels and stuff we built that made it look more like a real roller coaster, not just something in your
Yeah.
bedroom.
I was gonna say, when I watch your videos, like, I love this first person view. It's really cinematic, and it's so interesting. So something I'd love for you to do is kind of walk me through that process. Like, when you make a video, what is the filming process like, and how long does it take to make your average video? Obviously, I know length, is different, and if it's stop motion versus if it's Hot Wheels, marbles, like, that's going to change things. But generally speaking, what's that process look like?
Um, I think a lot of the videos I start out with what materials am I going to use and in what location. I think those are the two starting points for me where before I've even come up with like a shot list or anything or a sequence of where the ride's going to go. I try and think
Hmm.
of how do I make this video stand out, so it's at least visually unique, where it's not something that people click on and say, oh, I've seen this before.
Yep.
Hard because I think a lot of my videos do have similar, you know, a similar format, but I try to make each one visually unique. I try to think of it like a Mario Kart track where
Yeah.
they have
I'm a
certain.
huge Mario fan, so you already know as soon as you mentioned that, I was gonna tackle that question. Yeah.
Nice, yeah, and all those games, particular the Mario Kart series, have been a real inspiration and something that I've studied of like how do you design a course through an environment and how do you frame stuff while you're on a track while still giving it a sense of place and not just motion or speed, but that like it's something that people connect to or remember or is visually distinct from the other tracks or other
Yep.
games out there or whatever.
I think it's a good lesson just in general with creation, right? Like, if you're a perfectionist, you're never going to put out anything. And so at some point you have to be able to say, look, like, you know, I want the world to see this more than not at all. So you just have to kind of push. And I think that, obviously the quality of your content in terms of the aesthetic, the recording, the camera, that's changed over time too, as your channel's, grown. And so early on, was this a very expensive channel for you? Like, I can't imagine buying all of this equipment, setting it up. I mean, that I didn't even ask you, how does setting it up, like, how do you basically use an entire house or backyard's worth of space just making these amazing complicated tracks. So I'm curious to learn about that as well. Just like, I like, hey, sorry, don't move over there. I got a whole course going. I don't want it to break.
Yeah, it's definitely a trick, especially at the beginning of quarantine. I was at home in Colorado with my family, and I had this big marble track set up throughout the whole house. But over the years, even before I was filming videos, if me and my brothers were building something, everyone got pretty good about avoiding it. But there was kind of like a
Mhm.
time limit of like, okay, once you've had it up for a certain amount of days, you'd reach like your limit, especially
Right.
if we had guests over or something. So it was always a bit of a time trial to kind of think about, okay, how do I build this in a way where it's not super in the way, but it uses a lot of space, or I can maybe take down a section of it overnight so people don't walk into it in the dark,
Yeah.
but keep the rest of it up. You just kind of have to be a little resourceful about that. And it's kind of a fun thing to think about, and I think lends a little bit of gravity to the videos, whereas opposed to like a computer generated video, you could just kind of have this infinite space. But me kind of having to work around corners and in people's backyards, or in my living room or whatever, is kind of fun, because you have to work with the environment instead of just bending it to whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes total sense. And in terms of like the process itself, these videos, are they all one take? And how many times, like, have you had to go through a lot of times where a course just broke or it just wasn't working and you had to change it midway because for some reason a complicated, type of setup you used, just it wasn't, the car wasn't moving or the marble or whatever the platform you were on was just not working?
Um, I try to picture something in my head as far as I can go, to see if it's plausible. I try not to choose a video idea that I have absolutely no idea how it's going to work. I try to get at least here's one shot I know will work, or here's one part
Yep.
I know I can get that's unique, but not outlandish to get. And sometimes if I'm really trying to do a stunt, like I want to have the car go off a jump and do a front flip and land it,
Yep.
it's tough to try and figure out how hard to push for something and when to let go of something that actually isn't going to work, if you've done
Right.
some tests. And usually in the first couple attempts you can kind of tell how hard something's going to be,
Yeah.
because if you get something to land close to the track, on a jump, or in the relative landing zone, or if you get it to land upright, then those are good signs, even if it's not right on the track or if it doesn't exit the frame after landing it.
Yeah.
Um, so that could be tricky, but I think I've gotten pretty good at figuring out where that threshold of impossibility versus
Yep.
possibility
I
is.
was gonna I was gonna say, like, when you make a track, can you guess how long it's gonna take? Because one thing, I look at your tracks, right? Like, you probably have to think the timing of it, and how long would it take to record it and things like that. I guess another question I have is, earlier on, what were some of the frustrations or the things that held you back? Like, for some channels, uh, they can upload videos every single day, for example, because there's, either you're talking to a screen, some people upload music. There's a lot of different, obviously, genres within content. But for you, there's a whole entire process of thinking of the idea, getting the product, setting it up, testing it, recording it, editing it.
Yeah, I think it's nice that I do have, like, I've got a whole closet back here full of all these toys and materials. And a lot of people, they look at the videos and say, wow, this must have cost so much to
Hmm.
make. They're like, this is $300 worth of Hot Wheels track. And they're not wrong,
Yeah.
but it's also, I think some people think I just burn everything after I use it. But I don't. I take it apart. And that's the great thing about construction toys or systems, is that they're designed for for people playing with them to be able to reuse it over the years, and so I can gradually, add to the collection of stuff. But yeah, it is a very unusual YouTube channel. I remember a couple of years ago, I tried to do some like YouTube advisor counseling. Like, I think when you reached a certain point, like 100,000 subscribers, you could get on the phone with someone from YouTube and they would say, hey, here's some tips for your channels. And there were a lot that were pretty helpful. Like, someone talked about making playlists,
Hmm.
and that's super great. So I have a Hot Wheels playlist that I've made, because if people like a certain type of video from me, I try and, group that all together. But then there was other advice that they gave me. They're like, well, you should make your videos longer. You should make them at least, 10 minutes long, or, oh, you should post every week, or, oh, you should post every day. Uh, I think the most outrageous one, a piece of advice, was you should try and film 2 videos at once. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know if this person has ever filmed a video,
Right. The other funny part is, you talk about sustainability, and something I think about is, I'd rather, if I'm going to the gym, let's say, I'd rather exercise 2 times a week for 10 years than exercise every day for 3 weeks and then burn out and just not do it anymore. And I think the biggest challenge with the platform with social media, think about platforms like Instagram and YouTube, once you have an audience, they have some demands. And so it's almost like, for your own self, you have to set some sort of realistic expectations as to how consistent you can be. So I'm curious how, what your take is on the best practice for a creator, or any advice you have for someone who's in this question of, do I upload every day? Do I focus on quantity? Do I focus on quality? From your experience, what do you think has worked best for you?
I think it entirely depends on the subject of the content, and we were just talking about video length, and I went to VidCon in Anaheim one year, and there was a guy, Freddie Wong, who runs the Rocket Jump channel or founded it, and I asked a question. I said, "How long should a video be?" And I think his response was, the length of the video should be directly related to its content. It's not like there's this magic number of 2 or 3 minutes
Right.
or whatever that automatically makes it great. But
Yep.
I would say advice for someone if they're starting a YouTube channel is think about the content that you're going to make first, and then decide the length. Um, I guess general advice would just try and make it as short as possible, and sometimes as short as possible might be 20 minutes. It might be a 20-minute video that is just absolutely crammed full of information or great footage. But that, it might also be 30 seconds if it's just a short meme or it's a joke or it's a skit. You know, so I mean, really study other channels that are in the area that you want to get into, and see what kind of format they've put their stuff into, and see if you can find something that's similar or in a genre that people are working in, but still unique or better than what's out there.
Do you think it's a myth that you have to post every day to be successful on YouTube?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff that you post is going to be up on the platform as long as YouTube's around. So I think it's really important to try and think of it in a longer term approach, instead of just, oh, I have to get something out for viewers today.
Yep.
It's like, well, are people going to want to come back tomorrow and watch that same video again? Because I think rewatchability is a huge factor. And if you're just cranking stuff out, unless you've got a really big team working with you, I think it's very hard to
Mhm.
put together daily content. Of course, there's certain genres that lend themselves to that a little easier, like gaming videos, or if you're doing, live streaming, um,
Yeah. But
that kind of thing.
it sounds like the main message is focus on the content and the rest will come after. The other thing I was going to ask you about, patience. How important do you think that is? I think in today's world, again, think when you started in 2010, there's no expectation I'm going to, make a living, or I'm going to be able to support myself with this channel. But when someone starts a channel today, the chances are they have some intentions, as an influencer, to be a content creator, to monetize their channel. There's been a big push. I don't even, when YouTube first started, you couldn't even monetize your channel. There weren't ads. So I think it's different starting a channel today than when you did. And so what are your kind of thoughts around that? And just, again, going back to the sustainability, for people who start a channel in 2021 or something like that, and obviously know the whole landscape of how YouTube works, and the opportunity that there is based on success stories like yours.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think being patient is super important, and but also being putting things into practice
Hmm.
and improving over time. And I think that's definitely helped my channel be successful over time, because I really didn't do it for full time until 4 years ago. So there were about 6 years where I was just doing it mostly as a hobby. I did start making money about maybe 4 years into it, but it wasn't like a serious career at that point.
Yep.
Um, but it's definitely, I think, there Mr. Beast on Twitter, he just gave some advice, which I don't watch a ton of his videos, but he said, when you're starting out a channel, just make every video a little better than the last one. Like
Mm,
maybe you just improve on the editing where it's tighter, it's more concise, or maybe it's the sound is a little crisper, a little clearer, or the music times up with stuff that happens.
yep.
And then just keep trying that. And I think a lot of people that start channels, they just burn out really fast because they have these really grand aspirations of, oh, this is going to go viral, or this is going to get 1 million views right away. And that can happen. Some people are really fortunate for that, but to have the persistence to continue even when it doesn't
Yep.
happen is important.
Yeah, and being authentic, right? Like some people go all out for before their first video, buy the nicest camera, get a backdrop, do all these different things. And I think it's evident that it's not the equipment, it's not the aesthetic that makes your channel successful. It's you, your message, and the content, as you said. Um, so that's super relevant. Talk to me about your audience a little bit. Like, has it changed in terms of over time, like either the types of interests, like who are the people that you've learned over the years watch your content? Because I assume, like, I love your content. I'm subscribed to your channel. I watch it, but um, is there any commonalities among the people who you interact with and engage with?
I think I used to say when people asked what I did for a living, I said I had a YouTube channel that was for kids and for families. And I think a little more recently, I've kind of changed that because I've learned how many people that are my age or older that are really into hobbies like model railroading
Yeah,
or Hot Wheels collecting or toy cars or racing or whatever. That even though it's toys that are designed with a majority kid audience in mind, I think a lot of people have great memories of these things, and a lot of the comments I get are pretty nostalgic, like, "Oh man, I remember playing with this stuff," or but like they haven't seen it in a while, or they've just stumbled upon it in recommendations, and so I definitely see people like me in that aspect that are
yeah,
hobbyists, but I also see families that do comment and say, "Hey, I watched this with my kids," and so it's really nice to know that this stuff is family friendly and that it's but it's still enjoyable for the parents to watch. It's not just like, hey, I'm making some mindless
yeah.
content just with something that is a popular brand.
Yep, it's not siloed, right? It's entertainment, and ultimately, I feel like there's a wide variety of people that could find your content enjoyable. Going back to what you said, it's like I'm a huge Nintendo person. I love Pokemon. I love Mario. Those games might have been designed for kids, but you have 30, 40-year-old people that are playing these games because they're nostalgic and they still love the games. So I love that sentiment. Um, what were some of the biggest challenges as a YouTuber, as someone who has people forget, right? Like you're a YouTuber, but you have a full life outside of this. And so I'm sure that there are times where you're either less available or things are going on. Like, what were some of the challenges of either balancing or just in general that you found over the course of your time as a content creator?
I think just being steady and consistent is really important,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting stuff go too much to your head, either really big praise or really big criticisms. You can get kind of burdened down with that, and I think just making the videos to something that you're happy with and that you're happy showing your friends could really keep you going, regardless of what everyone else is saying. But at the same time, it is kind of fun to read the positive, fun comments and interact with that. And I would say try not to follow current fads, if that's a thing, because I I think YouTube used to kind of give this advice of, hey, follow trends. Anytime there's a trend that pops up, like jump in on that, post about that. And it totally depends on what type of content you're making. But I found that you can just get really swamped if other people that are making similar content, that you'll just get drowned in how much other stuff is out there. So I think um, trying to make things that haven't yet been made or aren't currently being made is a little more beneficial. I think, of course, if you're, someone who's at the top of the YouTuber list, you could
Yep.
probably have, do more, be more at the top of the list if there's a trend that comes up in
Yeah.
terms of the search results.
And I think going back to like how important do you think passion is? Right? Kind of a rhetorical question, but I'm just curious. Like, there are people who make channels thinking, "Oh, this type of content is successful." Like you said, there's a trend here. I think I can get a viral video, or I think I can build an audience really quickly if I capitalize on this. A lot of people also like, if let's say a current event happens, someone passes away, or there's a huge thing that's going on and everyone around the world knows about it, like people just jump on this bandwagon of making that content. But I think what you're saying is focus on evergreen, what's more long lasting, and ultimately what's more authentically you. So I'm curious, and your thoughts on the importance of actually loving what you do in terms of you actually being successful.
I think I definitely really enjoy my job. That's for sure. I do. It still is work in a lot of ways. There's a lot of organizing things and a lot of planning things, but it can still be really fun. And I keep thinking how fortunate I am to have a career right now that's something that I would have wanted to do when I was a kid, and that's something I can invite other people into as well. And that instead of just, oh, here's what I built in my basement, it's like,
Yep.
here's something I made that's being watched by a lot of people online and that people are going to as if it's like a virtual theme park, which is super fun. Like they're going and riding roller coasters or
Yeah.
um, that kind of a thing, which is fun. Um,
Yeah. I I guess I'm also curious, right? Like, I haven't asked too much about your content, but like in terms of like your most recent video, you got a GoPro and you go underwater, and like you're always innovating, and that wasn't possible 10 years ago. So like it's so cool to see the channel evolve. Your stop motion video, I loved the dinosaur video, how you were able to tell a story without any words. So I guess I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about that. And then just a side note, do you ever get approached by brands? People, as you think of a YouTube channel, I think a common misconception is it's all about YouTube ads, it's all about this. But to be successful and to be full-time YouTuber, I think there are other ways to also be able to financially be compensated for the stuff you're working on.
well, to answer the brand part of the question,
Mm-hmm.
I have never officially done a product placement on my channel or a brand deal on my channel. Now, having said that, I did make a Thomas the Tank Engine stunts video specifically for Mattel, I think about 2 years
That's
ago.
so cool.
And it's
Mhm.
on the Thomas and Friends YouTube channel. It's like the third most viewed video there,
Wow.
which I think 5-year-old me would have been pretty psyched about.
Yeah,
So
a dream come true.
yeah, that's cool. But I also, there's a lot and a lot of sort of kind of restrictions on how these companies want their toys presented that I think in my videos I break just about every one of the rules. Like one of the rules with the way they present Hot Wheels in the official Mattel stuff is don't go uh, n- um, near stairs. They don't want kids falling down the stairs playing the track, or don't go near water. They don't want people drowning, or don't go near a road because we don't want people to get hit by cars, and
Yep.
don't show fire, even though fire's in the logo. It's kind of like
Right.
it's tough, and I understand a lot of those from a legal standpoint, but I think it's kind of fun to do things in sort of a hack and homemade way that feels like, oh, this is someone would have made their backyard and not something that's in a big corporate studio. So
Definitely.
it feels a little more perhaps dangerous, a little more unpredictable, but also maybe a little more authentic to what it would actually what people are probably actually building um, with these toys instead of just the way that the company wants you to use it. But having said that, I think I've had a great relationship with Mattel, and they just actually sent me some Hot Wheels track in the mail after I sent them my last video,
That's so
which is
awesome.
super cool and generous of them.
Hmm.
Um,
And
so that's cool.
yeah, and I think it's important, like if you're in a specific niche, to interact with the known names, the brands, the companies that are relevant to what you're doing. And so Mattel would have never discovered you, or did they discover you organically? How did you even strike that relationship?
I think I had posted a video 4 years ago that was called Hot Wheels Beach Track, and that was the first time I had put a GoPro on the car. And someone from Mattel, but from the Thomas the Tank Engine department, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we really like this toy point of view footage that you've done. Could you do a video with that with this new Thomas toy that we had?" And that video never materialized, but that was kind of the
Hmm.
first. Uh,
Nice.
point where someone at the company had reached out, and I got to actually tour the Mattel headquarters that's not too far from where I live in 2017. And you go in the building, and they have a Hot Wheels section, they've got a Barbie section,
Yeah.
and a whole bunch of stuff, which was really neat to see. And it was cool to officially work with them in 2018 for sure. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's always crazy kind of seeing the behind the scenes of like how much work goes into designing these toys, and also the drama too, because it's like the rights to Thomas the Tank Engine toys has passed from like RC2 to Hit Entertainment to to Fisher Price to Mattel, in like
Wow.
the past 10, 15 years. And it's just, there's a lot of politics there. And unfortunately, some of the people I'm in touch with were let go last year, um, or maybe the year before. Uh, but yeah, it's the brand world is very interesting, but it's cool to be able to move a little bit faster with content,
Yeah.
in terms of like some of these the companies. Like I suggested to the person at Mattel, I was like, hey, you guys should make a GoPro camera, like an official one. Like I had made a hack one with friends. I had them like saw up this car and stuck the camera on there. But it was really, it's kind of wobbly, and I was using that for maybe a year or two until they did in 2018 roll out an official GoPro session compatible car, which was awesome. So
No way.
someone at the company, passed it on, and they were, did it in the works. I don't know if I was the instigator for that.
Yeah, you're an innovator in your own industry. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What's the hardest in terms of, stop motion? How does stop motion even work? And then when you're thinking you're making a Marvel video or a Hot Wheels video, like which one would you say requires the most effort, or are they all just so different you can't compare them?
I think stop motion animation could definitely be the most tedious to make. For me, it's not just the animation part where you're taking a picture, then you're moving the model a little bit, then you're taking another picture and playing all those back at a high speed. Um, the really tedious part to me about stop motion is just setting up each shot and framing it and securing the objects down and lighting it for every single shot in a video. That takes a lot of time. And the last stop motion I did was last December, and it was going to be a part of a longer video that I'm still trying to figure out if it's possible to go back and complete that in some faster fashion. But it took me 11 days, but over the course of all of 2020, I had it like sitting
Yeah.
on my desk over here, just staring at it, kind of like dreading it.
You're just looking at it, you're just like, yeah.
Exactly. And I eventually I finished that, minute and a half, like kind of intro test footage, and then I've just put it away and it's kind of in storage for now. But as far as stop motion goes, in YouTube, kind of the name of the game is being able to work as fastly as possible on footage. And I have a couple of friends that do stop motion professionally, but they've only been able to sustain that by working with brands like Lego,
Mhm.
which is great. That's a career as well. Um, but it's on YouTube. I don't see too many channels doing, you know, 12 frames a second or even 24 frames a second for stop motion, because you really, as one person, could only put,
Right.
so many of those videos out.
Yeah. Has your team grown over time? Like outside of you, I think your brother works on your music, and I know you have some family involved. So, how important do you think it was to have other people involved, either with social media or just with strategy, filming, setting up, as you continue to grow your channel?
Well, first of all, the channel name Five Mad Movie Makers was
Hmm.
named after the five kids in my family, including me. And so from the very beginning, it's kind of been a playful, fun group effort. I definitely right now I'm in charge of the channel and the one responsible for it. But my brothers, especially over the years, would help build the layouts, or advise on the editing, or help come up with ideas. But even my whole family, and then a lot of my friends too, they'll just suggest stuff. And like my girlfriend Alyssa, she did the puppeteering for the dinosaur defense video,
Hmm.
which some people have thought was stop motion, but it greatly sped up the process of that video. It was filmed in 2 days. They were pretty full, busy days, but being able to have people nearby to help me out um, is super great.
Yeah.
And definitely Mark doing the music for the video, I pay him. I try and get him at least a video gig every
Hmm.
month that he can compose for. He's just way better at that than I am, and I've messed around a little bit in terms of composing stuff.
Yeah.
But or when the channel was first starting out, I made my own thing in GarageBand and I posted the video, and people were like, "What is this music? Like the
Oh
video is
man,
cool."
I got into beat making 2 years ago. I started on GarageBand, and I actually swear by it because it's an entrance. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think so many people, whether it's with content or with music or with art, anything in general, you look and you see what people do, and then you just compare that against you. But you have to start somewhere, and your channel had
Yeah.
to start somewhere, right? Like I'm sure if you compared your content today compared to where you are or where you were back then, it's completely different.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think I wish I could be good at everything, and maybe if I took the time that my brother has, over years to learn, like he's got Logic on his Mac, and he
Same
just
here.
flies through that program and he can whip up a pretty amazing song in about 2 or 3 hours. And it's you kind of have to choose your battles, you know, of like,
Right.
do I want to spend, weeks learning this software and making a song? I have gotten into programming MIDI stuff using, gosh, what's the program? It's like, Muse Score, I think, and
Mm.
I compose a song, but just with piano notes for a video I did called Marble Karaoke, and then I sent that to my brother Mark with lyrics and everything. But I said, okay, now can you make it sound good, like a real song?
Yeah.
Because it just otherwise it just sounds like a computer music box, just ding 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 ding, hitting
Yep.
all the notes, and then he really filled it out. He sang on it. He sang the lyrics and just mixed and mastered it. It just sounds amazing. And so I'm really thankful to have him to work with in that
Yeah.
regard.
For video editing, did your software change when you first started compared to now? And was video editing hard? Because I make music. I feel the same way about editing. I feel like editing videos is and trends, figuring out transitions and keeping it smooth. Like that's really difficult too.
Yeah, I think I started out, well, first started filming on tape, which that I thought you had to go in order when you're filming on a tape, but I watched my grandpa. We did a trip to Disneyland when we were, I don't know, 6 or 7, or when I was that old with my siblings, and uh, he started playing back, sometime later, the footage from the trip. And the very beginning was a wall with pictures on it from the trip. I was like, well, how did you get those? We haven't even gotten to the trip yet in the video. How did you do that? And he had saved 2 minutes of just blank footage at the beginning of the tape, and then filmed the trip to Disneyland, and then gone back and recorded over those 2 minutes. And that was the first time I ever understood, oh, like you can mix and match this stuff. You could rearrange things, other than just, doing the classic disappearing trick of where you cut and move out of the frame and then start recording again, and it looks like someone's disappeared. This was the first time where the order of things had been reversed, but in a really cool
Right.
way where it seemed really professional, at least to me.
Yeah.
But I started with Windows Movie Maker, and then Pinnacle Studio, which is made by Avid. It was
Hmm.
like 12 or 13, I think, or maybe 11. And my roommate, I think, still uses Pinnacle Studio. And then I did Final Cut Express on my
Hmm.
MacBook Air. And now I'm on Adobe Premiere.
Nice. Yeah. See that evolution. So obviously there's way more you can do. And I'm sure you've built a lot of different skills. Was it transferable every time you changed?
The general principles definitely transfer over. It's just kind of some of the finding out where the finer details are. And as far as video editing goes, I don't use a whole lot of effects or fancy titles or text
Yep.
on the computer. It's all pretty much footage that's been shot for real. And I really don't do a whole lot of post processing in terms of changing the lighting or trying to, color grade or color correct anything like that, unless it's, completely trash footage and I need to try and save it
Right.
somehow. But um, yeah, it's definitely, once you have kind of the theory of film editing, I think the more you can get planned out in your head before you open up the program is better, because some people, they just have mountains of footage and they start just wading through it and they're just lost in it. And so even before you shoot the video, if you can have an idea of what the edit's going to look like, that'll be super duper helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you usually take your videos more than one time? Like, does it take 10 takes before you found the final product, or is it usually good to go?
You mean like passes in the editing,
Or
or
I mean, like you're putting your race car down the track the first time and you got the GoPro on it and, it falls off the course or something like that.
yeah, it's very, very rare that I'll get something to work first try, unless all it is just a slow and steady, straightforward ramp.
Yep.
Um, which, the Marvel video that I did in March or April, which went from top of the bottom to house, it was like 4.5 minutes long, and people thought I must have had hundreds of attempts for that, but it was actually only 8 or 9 when I was filming. But on the 9 days I'd been building that, every single day I tested the track up to the point I was at and refined it. So there was definitely a lot of testing off camera, but I know, well, I'm not going to really film it for real until I have the whole thing completed. So that's a lot easier when it comes to the filming. The work is just all in the prep. But most of the time, if I'm doing a stunts video, which I've kind of made a subgenre of my channel, where I have the cars going off jumps, doing flips, corkscrews, and then landing it or crashing through something and then landing it. Most of those will take maybe 10 to 20 on
Hmm.
average attempts. But some of the really hard ones have taken like, 70, 80, or 90 attempts,
Right.
which could be pretty much a whole day just to get one shot. Like I did one of a train hitting a crane magnet, and the magnet pulls it up just enough, but then the string gets taut, it releases, and the train does a backflip. It lands it, and I think that was, I don't know, yeah, 70 plus
It
attempts.
kind of sounds like skateboarding in a way. It's just like a different version of it. You're like getting all these cool kick flips and different tricks going. Um, I
Yeah,
find that so
definitely.
interesting. Um, what was your most successful video in terms of like, was there ever a video that it's like you post it, you come back one day later and you're like, whoa, like the results, like I was not expecting this. Like, did you ever have a moment like that?
It's funny, if a video is going to go viral, you can usually tell in the first couple minutes, which is
Really?
weird, which I've only had 2 or 3 videos on my channel go viral in the sense of like 500,000 views within a day or more than that, or like getting to the top of Reddit or shared by news, organizations. Because most of my videos views are just from suggested videos on the side of YouTube, and just people finding them there. But when something goes viral, like a good indicator is within the first couple of minutes, I'll see like the thumbs up on the video, and I'll see like the ratio of that, like how many likes or dislikes. And if something's doing really well, like I remember the Thomas Train stunts video got to 100 likes within a minute or two, of just people clicking on the video and saying, "Oh yeah, I enjoyed that." um, I don't know. Maybe I'm just superstitious about it,
No.
but sometimes you'll post something and you'll immediately kind of see like a couple of people are like, I'm not totally on board, and they'll thumbs down or whatever. Um, but you don't always know until you kind of, wait a couple days. And nowadays the algorithm has been really randomly picking up videos. I think they're getting very good at kind of varying what people are seeing in their feeds, and
Hmm.
they'll let something kind of sit for a while, and like your viewers will watch it, and then it'll kind of, viewers will trickle in. But if they see that people are liking the video, it's engaging people, then the system will kind of, all of a sudden send the video skyrocketing for a day or two. So it's kind of like a built-in version of going viral on YouTube.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, right, like when you're just starting out, if I upload my first video tomorrow, getting 100 likes in a few minutes sounds really difficult unless if you're ranking for YouTube search, because suggested is typically suggested videos, browse, homepage. Those are typically where you see viral videos because you can't go viral unless if something's recommending you, you're just not, the chances of going viral of a million people searching for a certain topic, it's possible, but just not very likely. So did you early on or now, do you have any self-promotion tips, right? Like a new YouTuber asks you, hey, Robert, just posted a video. What do you recommend or what have you learned about self-promotion, etiquette, and, giving YouTube the right signals early on to promote a video when you don't necessarily have that audience yet?
I think putting the link in as many places as possible as are relevant is really important. So the day that I post a video, I post it to my own personal social media pages for the channel on, yeah, I guess not personal, but brand channels,
Yep.
whatever, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even YouTube now has built-in stories and community tab features, but I think you only unlock those at a certain point of subscribers. But then I would say that Reddit has been pretty huge for me to get my video to people that want to see it, which I think is really the whole goal of the game. A lot of people forget that when something goes viral, a lot of people end up seeing that video that don't want to see it. Like if
Right.
something gets on trending, either people are like, oh, this is cool, or they're like, why is this on trending? Because like their idea of what should be on trending is something totally different. And so I think you have to know what core group of people would be really interested in this video, but then try and share it to as many of those groups of people as possible. Like I've posted my stuff to, there's a GoPro subreddit, there's a Thomas the Tank Engine subreddit, there's a Hot Wheels subreddit. And so a lot of people think, oh, I've got to post it to the videos subreddit, which has 10 million plus, followers, but stuff just gets swamped there. There's just,
Yep.
so many people posting stuff all the time. And I think I've even gotten my post removed because it was counted as self-promotion or something like
So yeah, I've been on Reddit before. I have the same problem. I can't even post in like r/videos, because like
that. Yeah.
they have so many different rules. So I think the takeaway from that is find small communities where the content's relevant, and in a way they're almost seeking type of content like that, and also being engaging. Do you find the social media is really important for you? Like, do you? I guess two questions. Do you interact with your community a lot, either on like Instagram or other platforms? Do you think that's important, responding to comments early on? And then what do you have to say for people who are worried about haters? I think
Mm.
YouTube is notorious for, people are going to dislike your content, some people are going to say their feelings. Like, your thoughts as an experienced YouTuber on just how you deal with negative feedback on your videos.
Um, Well, to answer the first part, I think just responding to comments on YouTube is pretty crucial, and then also commenting on other people's videos is super crucial too. Because if you comment on someone's videos a couple uploads in a row, they'll notice that if they do read the comments, which I really think most people that are at a mid-sized YouTube channel do, and forming those sort of tight-knit communities with, hey, here's other people that make stuff that's similar to what I'm making, as opposed to trying to collaborate with the top YouTubers. It's like, well, here's other people I can grow with, or that I could
Yep.
start. We could watch each other's stuff, or share each other's stuff, or promote each other's stuff. Definitely helps, because I've found like a lot of viewers that are on YouTube aren't really on like other social media platforms like uh, Twitter or Reddit. Some of those communities tend to be a little insular between all the different sites.
Silent, yeah.
Um, so
But
that can be tough.
but you don't want to do sub for sub, right? I think that's the one thing. That's my one advice to anyone is, YouTube now looks at, like, if you tell someone, hey, you subscribe to my channel, I'll subscribe to yours. If they're not watching your content, YouTube actually looks and is like, you have 1,000 subscribers and get 2 views a video. What's going on? So I
Mm.
think that there's a misconception sometimes where people think it's all about the number, when in reality, the engagement is what's important, right? They talk about click-through rate. They talk about average watch duration. So you don't want to bring people into your community just for the sake of inflating your numbers, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've learned the boundary between self promotion and interaction. You want to interact with people. You don't want to walk into a room and say, everyone subscribe to me, and then turn around and leave. That's pretty rude
Or
if you
like,
did that in
yeah,
real life. And that would be pretty rude if you did that in a YouTube comment section. And generally, people don't take too kindly to that. And I think there was a point in 2015 when I first went to VidCon, which is kind of the big YouTube online video conferences. I had business cards and I was handing them out to everyone that I was meeting initially, and I was like asking questions in the Q&A that were like kind of relevant about my channel. And I've kind of learned, like, you don't have to push that, because if you start just talking with people like one-on-one, like, hey, what's your channel about, and being curious about what they're doing, and then they ask you about yours, and then you can kind of, on that sharing point, instead of it's just like you're broadcasting to no one in particular, that's
mm-hmm.
not super helpful. And I've made a lot of great friends on YouTube over the years, and even in person, just talking to people about channels that they like to watch or stuff that they enjoy making. It's just super great. So you have to approach it like friendships and not like a business
don't make it
transaction.
don't make it transactional, make it
Yeah.
authentic and
Yeah.
organic. No, that's awesome. And all of this feedback is so helpful, because ultimately a lot of the people who will be watching this are either new or aspiring content creators, who are interested in breaking into the space, and really appreciate you taking the time to give all this advice. Do you talk to your audience a lot? Like, is there anything you'd like to use this platform to say to them? Because I know your channel is not based on you behind the camera, right? Like, it's based on featuring the material you work on. So I'm curious if there's anything you'd like to say to the people that support you.
I'd really just like to say thanks for watching to everyone who's ever watched my channel. That means a lot to me, and it's really cool that people have been able to help me achieve a career that's fun and exciting for me. And I'm glad that the people that watch seem to agree. And to every person who's ever forwarded a link to my video, or who's ever shared it with their family, or just talked about it. It means a lot, and every little interaction like that just helps immensely with establishing a positive, fun environment that people can play in and entertain themselves and have fun.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a great way to look at it. And I'm sure your audience wants to also thank you for just making such incredible content and sharing it with the world. I'm sure it's very meticulous to get your videos up and running. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Robert. Five Mad Movie Makers, guys. I'll be throwing some links to his channel. If you have not checked him out, definitely like, comment, subscribe. I can't tell you how incredible and original the content is. So yeah, from all of us at that viral moment, thank you so much for your time, Robert. I'm sure we'll be in touch, and would definitely love to have a part two to this conversation at some point.
Yeah, sure thing, Lyle. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on this podcast. It was great to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm looking forward to some of the feedback. I'm also looking forward to seeing your future content and seeing how the channel continues to grow. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to connecting again soon.
All right, sounds like a plan, Lyle. Thank you.
Hey guys, so I'm Lyle from That Viral Moment. We just interviewed Robert from Five Mad Movie Makers. Definitely go check him out. We're dropping his links in the comments below. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're interested in starting your own channel, social media, or you just want to learn from some awesome people how they grew their audience to where it is today. Thanks so much.